Do I need to go get Kat?
I don't know, it's supposed to, it's still saying leaving privacy mode, it's supposed to be on. I wonder if I
Just
should.
check the live feed just to make sure. Where to put it?
Looks like we're live.
Do I need to go get Kat?
I just heard
Oh,
it.
it's great.
Yeah. Something's coming.
All right, and I have 5 o'clock, so I will call the meeting to order. Zoning and Adjustment Board, City of Ocean Springs, Tuesday, April 9th. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from the March 12th meeting. Anyone like to, has everybody had a chance to look at those? Any corrections, or would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written. I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
All right, motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is old business, and we have none. So we will move on to new business. First item on the agenda is 1301 Government Street, parcel ID number 60119568.000, requesting variances from the side and rear building setback requirements. And Wade, if you'll introduce us to the request.
Sure thing. Can you scroll on down, Camille, to the, please go to the site plan on that, please. Okay, yeah. That's probably a good place to start. That's the survey. I think this is, as you said, 1301 Government Street. It's in the CMX2 downtown commercial, community commercial zoning district. It's the site of the district coffee shop, which is currently a single-story building. That shows you there the extent of the size of the property, which is fairly small, and the location of the building on, as you can see, it does extend out close to the property lines on the south and the north, and also encroaches over onto the east side. We'll go on to the next one. That show, there you go. Okay, that kind of gives you a summary of the proposals within both with the variance on that, on that north and east sides. As I said, this is in the CMX2 zoning district. It's in the downtown overlay district, which does have more downtown-oriented, downtown-like building setbacks. The UDC calls for building setback distances of 0 to 5 feet. The way that works is that the buildings can encroach up to the property line, but the 5 feet is intended to provide some flexibility in the siding of buildings, but at the same time to provide for necessary access to basically to the rear and sides of the buildings to enable access to garbage carts, trash compactors as necessary, any kind of utilities that may be on the site, air conditioning units and things of that sort. So in this situation, and go on to the next one that shows the building plan. Can you rotate that? Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Perfect. Let's see. I think you can see that on the north side of this, it's proposed some supports for the proposed second story of the building. And also on that western side, you see there highlighted our proposal for the stairway leading to the second floor. I think the issues the questions basically that we have for this, for the variance, are basically, as I said, the ability to provide location and access to the rear sides of the building, just basically to get to the any kind of plumbing on the building itself, primarily the access to garbage carts and dumps provide access for them. From looking at it, the stairways and other setbacks take up a whole lot, not all of the available space to that, like I said, to the north and the rear. So that is why it's here before you for variances to those setbacks, those distances. I would also want to just point out that, as noted in the findings, the additional construction calls for 4 additional parking spaces, and as permitted by the UDC, those are being provided on the existing parking lot to the north. If this all goes through, the owner has a lease agreement with that property owner to provide those spaces on that site. That concludes the notes I have on this, and Mr. Anthony Patera, the owner of the District Coffee Shop, is here if you have questions for him too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wade. Any discussion or questions for Wade before we bring the applicant up?
So, I guess technically by the UDC, could have zero.
Yes.
Get rid of that.
It could be, like I said, it could be a zero setback on this. But again, with the provision that there is adequate, access designed in to access any kind of dumpster areas, trash enclosures, things of that nature that are utilities, whatever it might be, to the rear of the building.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. Portera. Okay, all right, if you'll come up, state your name and address for the record, please, and then anything else you would like to kind of add to what Wade has already mentioned.
It's Anthony Fortino. It's 230 Hawken Boulevard. Mr. Morgan, you were worried about the trash location? Or is that-
Basically, that's one of the issues, yes. That's, how is that going to be addressed?
So under the stairwell, that back door is not going to be utilized anymore because there's going to be a second egress straight across.
Can we use directions like north-south?
Yeah,
Not-
northeast,
there's two
northwest
stairwells.
part of it there, right?
Yeah, the State Street side right there.
Okay.
West.
Thank you.
So the trash will be under that stairwell. And the back door that's there now is not going to be utilized anymore. The egress is going to come out right in the middle as required for fire exit. So I took the measurements a while ago, and there's room for 5 or 6 cans. And there's going to be a picket fence around it, covering it for the aesthetics.
Around the whole thing?
Sir?
The whole trash area there you're talking
Yes, sir.
about?
Picket fence around it.
Yeah, so that, in that northwest corner, the metal stairs, so it'll just be open on the sides, but you'll have that picket fence around it.
But
Okay.
Like I said, when you do, get with Donald and provide a detailed blow-up of that area, when you go through design review on it. I think that'll be the best way to approach that.
And I just got off the phone with him for you were worried about utilities on the north wall.
Right.
There's gonna be 2 foot 4 inches that stays of our property. And there will be no plumbing on the ground. There's a sewer line there now, but it's all going underground.
Okay, that's going to be my question. I know there's sewer lines on the north side, so they're.
That's one underground.
Okay. But then on the east side, the air conditioning units and such.
So our AC units are gonna be up on the 2nd level. On that side, there's no plumbing or anything, so Donald explained it to me that you could go wall to wall with another building and it wouldn't matter.
So the existing AC that's on that side is being moved?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's over 30 years old. I mean, this is really old.
okay.
Probably gonna do split units, it'd be even easier, so.
So what you mentioned various and sundry utilities that need to be accounted for. What other utilities are out there that we need to
I think, he's discussed them. It was plumbing was on that north side, existing AC unit on the east side. He's going to be addressing those. And then, if, as he said, the location of the garbage carts is going to be dealt with and screened properly, then that's, at least that addresses most of the issues that we had as staff.
Okay. Are there any other unaddressed issues?
Nothing that's apparent right now. I mean, again.
As of now?
Well, as we get into this, if the variances are approved, assume that they're approved, in order, before any kind of construction can start, much like with Murphy Water, it goes through the design review and stage design review process through various city departments. And if other issues, other questions come up with that, those will have to be addressed also. But again, that will be in the future as part of the getting more into the details of the actual building construction.
So you're saying with this proposal, it addresses the known utilities that are required?
That's correct, yes, it does.
So if there was a building to the east, it could be theoretically just a butt
Yes, sir.
right up to that wall, then?
Well, again, that would again come to the same situation, is that how is that building, how are the utilities, trash compactor, trash carts, whatever, going to be accessed on that building? Same questions would come up.
Second building, yeah.
If there, whatever might go in there next door, something will eventually will be there.
That's on the east side.
Correct.
West side is a street,
West side of the street.
and north side is what's on
Vacant.
north side, is it vacant lot?
So where's this for lease parking lot? Then if it,
I'm sorry.
well, I thought it was the north side, but
It's
not
one,
there
it's
yet.
one lot to the north. Camille, can you back up to the vicinity, go to the first page of the report? Down some, down a bit. Okay, you see where the number, address 902 is on that one?
Oh, this one, okay.
On State Street, excuse me, yeah. That is where, that's a parking lot right now, and that's where those spaces are being located.
Okay.
How does that work when you're leasing a space because you don't have it available at your commercial business, as far as you said in the codes?
There is the requirement is for a multi-year lease with the property, and the spaces have to be signed, designated for use of, by the district customers.
And they have to maintain the copies of current leases with the city when they do this?
That's
So
correct.
if it expires or the agreement falls through, then what?
Then they have to, we have not had that situation arise, but they would been, their responsibility would be to find additional parking spaces in some other location that meets the criteria.
More for my education, the overlay district, this is downtown overlay district, right?
Correct.
So I guess in theory, it's kind of to set a whole, like the proper downtown on Washington, kind of like everything's
Exactly,
front
yes.
facing, just a solid
Right, or the,
face.
the section of Government Street further to the west, from like Washington eastward, that same type of appearance
Yeah, so
at Washington.
currently rooftop is built on the property line, and that construction going on just to the west of that is going to abut yet. So they'll share a wall.
Okay, so now that we're looking at this overhead shot, you see the two white vehicles that are sticking out in the road? What's that gonna look like when you have a set of stairs coming down? And how are these garbage cans, and how's this fence gonna line up? And we already have, I'm just pointing it out, it's a treacherous corner, because you got Phoenicia with their outdoor plumbing, their grease trap, and these are all sitting on the edges of the roadway. And I just don't know if the size of this lot is gonna support, we're gonna go up to 2 stories. And how we're gonna flank the east and west ends of this building and stairs. Plus, you're talking about a balcony on the west and south sides, if I'm not mistaken. There's a wraparound sort of, at least 2 sides, it's gonna have an overhang balcony.
Yes, ma'am. So those are actually one of my brother's trucks, but we're not gonna utilize that anymore. We'll have to.
No, it just, to me, it serves as a note that those don't even fit there very well, and stairs would then go there on the edge of the road.
Architect has it drawn out where it fits. We have 9 foot on that side.
Well, I think what you're saying is that that given picture is a temporary situation. Cars are not going to be parked there. on any kind
But
of
it's not about the cars, it's just showing
It's the-
what limited space really we have.
Oh, I understand.
Those are full-size trucks, and then probably could have parked a little better. But
So it's 9 feet
9 feet, yes, sir.
from the building to the edge of the street,
Yes, sir.
okay? Thank you.
But it's 6 feet, right? I thought this was showing 6 feet. It's hard to see a lot of this.
Show anything.
Where's this outdoor stairs?
So if you look on the applicant's site plan, it's 8 feet 6 inches. Is what kind of
Jets out.
from that property line over, identified as from the start of the stairs to that
So
wall.
it's at under 9.
Mhm.
8, 10. And we're talking about what type of setback then on the north? They're requesting how much?
So
2 feet?
if you look at that, I know it's hard to see on that site
Mhm.
plan, beside it, but, or underneath it. The stairs would abut that northern property line. And then there are also, some supports that would jut out from the current, I guess, building on the north side to be able to support that second story.
I'm just gonna ask, so what is the distance? Would we measure from the support back here then at that point? Or we still measure from the wall? We would measure from the outer support.
Right. Which is
What is that distance? I'm having a hard time finding.
Well, on the west, it varies. On the west side, it's 0.
The north. where-
Correct.
Yeah.
But the western support is 0. It's almost on. But as you go further to the east, it pulls away from it a little. So it varies anywhere from 0 feet, right on it, to 18 inches.
There's one 18 inches, yeah, so I can read it
I
right.
can't see it.
So, exactly how we, it is here.
All right, so any other further questions for the applicant at this time? You'll have a seat, we may pull you back up. Is there anybody else here to speak for this request? All right, is there anybody here to speak against this request? All right, Wade, did we have any kind of neighbor input or anything? Any emails, letters?
Did not receive anything.
Okay. All right. Further discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion?
My only discussion would be, since there was no input from the neighbors, who are your neighbors there?
Phoenicians.
Venetia, a restaurant,
He's
and
across the street from him.
Yeah,
It's empty lots all around the structure right
it
now.
is now, okay. Empty, all right. Okay. potential motion is right on. You need a motion?
Yes, sir. For further discussion.
The motion is to recommend approval of a variance from the minimum building setback requirements, which we've discussed, to allow new construction to extend to the north and east property lines at 1301 Government Street, as described in the application and on the site plan.
All right, so we have a motion to recommend approval of the variances. Do we have a second?
A second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, the motion passes. All right, so then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is 211, 213, 215, and 217 Savannah Gardens Road. Elliott Homes, and I'm not going to read all those parcel ID numbers, requesting a variance from the side yard setback requirement. And Wade, if you'll introduce us to the request.
Okay. Yeah, this is for 4 lots in the Savannah Estate subdivision, lots 6, 7, 8, and 9. Shown up there on that gives you the overall location of the subdivision. For those of you who are maybe familiar with it, Savannah Estates is a recently improved subdivision. It's under construction right now for somewhat smaller lots and single-family homes within it. The specific request, go on to the, let's see, scroll down just a little bit. I think that little graphic there in the corner kind of shows it pretty well. If you just see the whole thing, that gives you a little bit of a perspective on it. Is that these 4 lots are in the southwest corner of the subdivision, and like I said, the request is for a 20% variance from the standard building setback on both the east and north sides of each lot. You can see the way that Savannah Estates is typically laid out for most lots is that the front of each dwelling will face basically an interior courtyard area and sidewalk. Within the garage access will be on the rear side. These lots, because they're on the edge of the subdivision, are a bit different in that they will have the house will face the street, and also the kind of garage, whatever, would go face the street also. And just to point out, these are these lots are the smallest of the subdivision. They're about a little over 53 feet wide, while the others are 55 typically. And according to the developer, this will provide an opportunity to design houses that are slightly wider and be then located at a little bit greater distance from the drainage swale to the west of them. And just for your information, in the report, there's a report from Donovan Scruggs on the variance and some of just other characteristics of the subdivision. So he and Representative from Elliott Homes are here if you have questions for them, or you can ask me anything about it also. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Wade. Any discussion or follow-up, Wade?
So the plat was already drawn out and approved as it is, assuming that a house would fit on these lots, right? I mean, the 53.
That's how they presented it, yes, that the lots were adequate size for the houses being proposed for them. Their argument is that due to the slightly narrow width of this gives a little bit more ability to design a house for the lot.
I mean, they're a little wider or they're a little narrower?
The lots are a little bit narrower than typical ones.
So, 1 through 5,
I thought it was 50 feet.
so they're all 55.
But the minimum's 50, right?
So the minimum
considered,
is 50 with a 7,500 square foot.
So they're a little wider than,
They're wider than the
Minimum.
minimum, they're wider than the minimum
Yes.
size, correct?
but because of the drainage easement, they can't build as long a home, correct? Or set it back enough because of the drainage easement.
Well, this gives them a little bit of ability to push it further away. As you see, there's that easement there on that west side of the lots. So this that provides a little bit of a more of a constriction to the buildable area. We do have, like I said, Van Post from LA Homes. Maybe he'll give you more details about what types of houses they're looking at for these lots.
Do we have any further discussion or questions before we bring?
No. Bring him up.
Okay, yes. Donovan's excited
One
about
more
it.
thing.
Okay.
We're closing this, scroll down a little bit to that highlight of the one principal lot there on that screen, I think just the,
You going?
keep going down, see where it is. There, there you go, that's fine. I think that may give a good example of what they're looking at on these.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Donovan, if you'll name and address for the record, please.
Donovan's Crust, Carissa Pine Drive, Ocean Springs. And Wade did a good job with his last, what was it, in outlining some of the issues that are at play here. Obviously, these lots are smaller than a lot of lots, or majority of lots in Ocean Springs. But it does indeed meet the minimum standards of the district it's in. And Brandon does a lot of different things with this subdivision, and this is one where you had the units that actually face a common area for the majority of the subdivision. There's a greenway in the middle that does some drainage with the sidewalks, and most of your front of your house is actually on a greenway where you look across the greenway and see your neighbors. And then the roadways are actually not really alleys, but they do operate a little bit like that, because that's where garbage cans and the garages and everything else is laid out. So it's very unique and different. And then when you see these particular lots that are 1 through 9 on the west end of the property, those all are more traditional lots that actually front a street with the garage along the street and the front door on the street. So they're arranged a lot differently. But as Wade said, these lots are slightly smaller than the other lots, and we're really, we asked for a 20% variance to give the flexibility we need. One of the bigger things is by adding this small setback variance, we're able to go to the edge of the brick. So there is going to be an aesthetic component of this. Otherwise, we're going to not be as wide. Also,
I'm sorry, can you just explain what you said again?
the brick on the outside would actually encroach into the setback. So if we are not given the variance, then we could not do additional brick on the outside edges of the home. I mean, we're really talking about inches or, a foot. But also, we could potentially modify the house a little bit and make it narrower. But by doing so, you're going to be pushed further back toward that drainage ditch. And I went out and looked at it, and sometimes, sorry Nick, but things that are done on engineering plans don't always look like they do on the ground when they're there. And in this particular case, the ditches are a little more obvious than you would think. And we don't want to put the house in that area. We want to use a drainage ditch for what it's intended, and that is for drainage. And keep the house as far removed from that as possible. And also to keep, kids from playing down there. And I used to live out in that area, and oftentimes those areas, especially around drainage areas, stay wet for quite some time. And I think it would make everybody a lot more happy and more comfortable with their home if the houses that are actually as far removed from that drainage ditch as possible. By going wider and not deeper, I think we would be able to accomplish that. I think we would put a much better product out that would match the other homes in the development, and it would also have comparable, values as far as the property as well. So that's in a nutshell. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding this.
All right, thank you, Donovan. Any follow-up?
I just want to talk about, just get a better understanding. There's going to be a sidewalk in the front, and these 4 properties have rear sidewalks, or all of them on this side are going to have?
All of the houses on this side of the street are going to have a front sidewalk from 1 to 9, all the way to the end.
And what about the rear sidewalk? That is for what?
The rear sidewalk is being omitted.
Okay. And then they're all going to be pervious surface, or is it pervious concrete? What are we, the pervious surface of 4,951 square feet? Is that pertaining to the sidewalks?
That's gonna be your sidewalk, house, everything that can't be.
Yeah, driveway,
That's gonna be all, the accumulation of all those.
But you're using a pervious surface, or?
Well,
Am I not understanding?
I think what you're saying.
or am I
I think
calculating
we're
that
doing it
wrong?
backwards, Nick. I think.
Well, if it's 7,500, and then the house is, I'm wondering if that's,
I think it's bad. I think the
that's.
4,900 is going to remove the 2,200 of impervious surface. I think 2,200 is impervious, and the 49 is going to be.
That's-
it'll be-
That's related to the ground.
So the house is.
That's what I was
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, I think, I'm like you, when I first look at it, I'm thinking there's 4,900 square feet of impervious, but no, I think 4,900 of impervious, and then the
It's
remaining.
just the yard.
Yeah,
Okay.
because the majority of it is going to be grass.
Okay.
And eliminate the rear sidewalks.
Correct.
So then that number may go up.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just looking at it, I would have said, yeah, that's the impervious, but, yeah.
Question,
I just did the math.
The house that's already built on, I think it's lot 4 or 5, or both of them. Would one of those fit on these lots? I see some houses are already built on.
No, that's where we're at. That little difference of 2 feet on those lots in the north really do matter. And those houses that are on those lots cannot go on these 4 lots. Now with the variance, they can. And that's,
I'm just thinking out loud, but you could put 3 lots there instead of 4 and kind of replat it, I guess, to make it.
yeah, we could, and that's, then you're talking about movement services. Yeah, you can go through the whole replanning process, which is difficult.
Oh, is there a downside to this? If so, what's that argument?
I mean, what I see is the plus side of it is that, these 4 lots are not developed, so anybody that buys them knows the variances are there going in, versus if you are trying to have a house that, a vacant lot with houses on both sides, and then you come in and want a variance there, it's a little bit different because then you are encroaching on your neighbors. This is an example where any neighbors will know what's there before they buy the house.
Right, all or none. Yeah, another, okay, that's fine. But the question though was the downside. I didn't hear that part. There is no downside in your opinion?
I don't know of any downside. No, I don't know the downside.
Getting closer to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be closer to the neighbor.
Pretty close to begin with, yeah.
All right, any other questions or for Donovan?
Can we just go over, this is R3,
3.
and what are the required setbacks? Refresh my memory.
The standard,
I didn't have any more, I'm sorry, I did not have any.
the standard side is 10 feet on each, for each dwelling, on each lot. So it's going from 10 feet to 8 feet. So it'll be, instead of being 20 feet apart, they'll be 16 feet apart.
And likely that we will not use that entire 2 feet. But it will give us flexibility.
All right, there's no further questions for Donovan.
Yeah,
Have a seat, if something comes up, we'll bring it back up.
I'll be right here.
All right, thank you. Anybody else to speak for?
Covered it all.
Okay, all right, is there anybody here to speak against this request? No? All right. Wade, anything from neighbors or anything? No neighbors
They were
exist?
notified, yeah, They were notified of
The dirt
the,
lot.
Yeah.
well, the
Yeah.
property immediately to the west, it is a single-family home. And the owner called me, was inquiring about it, but they were satisfied with the issues with the, since it would not put the houses any closer to him, there was not something that was a concern.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Good.
It's closer to each other.
Correct.
All right. Further discussion, or would anyone like to make a motion? And I guess, in my mind, we're doing them all at once or all,
All or
I mean, we can do them individually if that's what everybody thinks, but,
So all the numbers, none of the numbers have changed. Recommend approval of 20%.
They're all the
for
same.
Okay,
Yes.
Good enough.
All right, so I'll do a motion to recommend approval of 20% variances from the minimum side yard building setback distances on lots 6, 7, 8, and 9 of Savannah Estates Phase 1 subdivision.
all right, so we have a motion to recommend approval of the 20% variance for lots 6, 7, 8, and 9. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
None opposed. All right, the motion passes. Okay, so, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is audience requests. And do we have anyone who would like to come up and address the board? Yes, sir. If you'll come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
Justin Ford, 2118 Whitney Oaks Drive. So a couple of meetings ago, I had sent in a request for a variance setback from a property line in our neighborhood. Essentially, I'm trying to attempt to build a detached garage for boat storage. I've worked with Mr. Wade a few times to make sure the building and everything met the plat or other requirements of not to be so much of a percentage of your plot or percentage of your house, I think it is. I was out of town when that was heard. I will take the blame for using the assumption that it was not that big of a request, that it would have just been approved, and I was out of town working that week, but it was denied. So I was, several of the denied explanations were required or subjective of HOA for Whitney Oaks subdivision. So, in the conversation I was attempting, because I had never heard of HOA in Whitney Oaks subdivision. So I've been there going on 7 years. There's never been a meeting. The committee that was set up in the LLC for the original development of that property has since been dissolved. It was actually dissolved by the state in 2014, or 2012, I believe it was. No one in our neighborhood has ever heard of the people that are listed on the committees for that HOA. But yeah, that was that was several of the reasons that it was denied. So my request was essentially a 2-story building requires a 10-foot setback. I was requesting for that maximum, I really only need 2 foot, but the 25% would be 2.5 foot of that. What it allows me to do is, I know we don't have that plan today to look at, but essentially it would allow me to back my boat directly into that garage versus having to deviate to the right a bit, 2.5 foot, and 26-foot boat, 36-foot complete setup.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of that was the 2 foot doesn't sound like much, but what that 2 foot allows me to do is put the minimum required door that I need there, which is 12 foot to get the boat in, but then also allows me a space left that is not behind my house now, that is still within my driveway space there, to put what I was essentially saying an egress door, another man-made door that you walk in and out of without having to open or close the garage. And I just felt like it was adamant or needed to at least have 2 of those egress doors, one that would obviously exit into my backyard, and then one that would exit and could be used as an entry off of the front of the building, front of the garage there. So I guess my biggest request here is that Mr. Wade said I would have to go through the whole process again, and I can obviously do that, but I wanted to have this conversation before I pay and do all this again, is that I want to make sure that if I do it again, it's not denied based on covenants that do not exist and have been unfunctioning for, I would assume, 2012.
Name of the subdivision again?
Whitney Oaks.
Whitney Oaks subdivision, yes, sir.
I would
It's
like
down
to
by
speak since I chaired.
Magnolia Park or so, down in that area.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you for coming. We very rarely, if at all, ever have any audience requests. So I'm not used to saying, "Oh, there's somebody here for number 5." But thank you. Because this board has made a decision, and it was, ultimately, I guess, agreed upon by the Board of Aldermen at a meeting. It has been, as Wade mentioned, kind of decided. So the next step is to kind of reapply and go through that process again. And I would just encourage, if you have, additional information, and, I guess it speaks to the importance of, always having, an applicant here in person to be able to speak, because sometimes, it didn't ask on the paper, is there a HOA that was once dissolved in 2014? Yes or no?
No,
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like it was not in my closing documents in any way, so
Yeah.
I would have had no clue to
Yeah.
provide. If I'd been here, I would have been provided that anyway. I would have been as shocked as
And nobody's
any
paying
random person.
HOA fees at any
There's
time?
never
That's
been a
yours.
collection,
Yeah.
to my knowledge, there's not a fund. Our neighborhood does a really good job of maintaining the integrity of our neighborhood. Now that I've read these covenants, I've made it clear to all of our neighbors, there's not a house in there that would not be in direct, outside of those covenants, but for our neighborhood, there's no extreme to it. If there is a camper in someone's driveway, it's very neat and clean, and no one lives in it, and so it's very well done. We pay out of pocket. Occasionally, neighbors will fund some money to have someone clean the front, or have a landscaper come in and do some landscaping, kind of the group areas or whatever. So we've kind of just taken it upon ourselves to do that. And made a comment that, yeah, we've been paying out of pocket, and if the HOA exists, someone has some funds that we could be reimbursed. Yeah, I've never paid or been requested. There's never been an annual meeting, which is obviously a major requirement for a functioning HOA, and I've done some research on it. So, because some of this was that I feel like maybe the board would want this information if Whitney Oaks comes up in the future for a request or something, that I can provide that to you guys as well, to say, hey, now we can kind of take care of this in one meeting, because we know that that's the situation. And that was, I sent Mr. Wade the stuff, but it was obviously after the meeting, and I'll certainly provide that again when I do reapply.
I have a question.
I actually wanted to speak. I chaired that meeting, and unfortunately, I know you were not here, but I don't want you to go too far down the rabbit hole. It had nothing to do with covenants or restrictions or a neighborhood association for Whitney Oaks. The decision was solely made on the codes of the UDC for lot nonconformity and the height of the structure and the variance that you were requesting. So it had nothing to do with, we're not going to make rulings for a subdivision that may or may not have covenants. That was not anything that we factored into our decision.
Okay, well, that was directly some feedback I got. That it
No,
was-
it's even in our minutes, and we have a YouTube video that you can watch, and Mike
Well, I was
made the
gonna say
motion.
that I would look, if you do it reapply, look at the specifics of the application. It has justification, has to meet these certain criteria. That's what we
Yeah.
usually look at.
We didn't
Topographical
base any of it
reasons,
on your subdivision.
shapes kind of your lots weird.
Yeah, well,
And I don't want to break off, I'm in the city attorney's office. I was at the board meeting openly on this, and I'll reiterate that. I mean, I said the same thing to the board, that the decision was not based on covenants, it was based on, I believe, the word in the ordinance is undue hardship. And the board agreed with the historic commission on that, to that. And so again, I don't want you to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not saying necessarily you can't reapply, but, again, the board's already heard the same argument I just heard tonight, based on the same set of factors. I believe there was another gentleman from the, maybe a neighbor, obviously talking about the covenants in the HOA, but again, whether there's an active HOA or not, or covenants, I mean, that's for the city's not really getting into that business, especially based on this determination. And that was all relayed to the board last Tuesday.
okay, well, I mean, that's, the feedback I got was this, it was denied here because of the covenants.
Yeah.
So I guess the other request is, what's the proof of hardship or something? Like, I mean,
A non-conforming lot, something that is of irregular size or shape, has different.
If you'll go,
I mean, I have
On
here
that-
where it was just the standard, exceptional narrowness and some of this stuff, but I guess I just have a hard time with, if it's a one-story building, 5 foot's okay. And I was trying to get some feedback too of what's, when you go to a second story, technically the second story that would be on the property side is nothing but a cathedral ceiling, and it's only required because the boat has a tower and it's higher. So no use of that extra story that would be within that 2.5 foot. So I don't, like, the thought of me having to prove hardship for something that like Mr. Atwood, you mentioned a minute ago, what does it hurt? And that could have been completely out of context for this, but that's kind of where I'm at, is like, it's my responsibility to prove hardship for me instead of just an inconvenience for me using the property that I own and I pay property tax on every year, versus someone telling me that this is the problem that it causes. And that's kind of what I thought kind of these individual cases get handled by is together we decide, what harm is it for me to, this is a way that it improves my use of the property based on my lifestyle or my needs.
yeah, so, the UDC, and I'll be brief, is very specific on what this board can and can't do and what we have to look at as kind of, our burden of proof, if you will, on those certain things. So, I'll just say that, I was out for that meeting, but the, information that was provided made the decision, ultimately 4-0 to deny that request. And I don't think, not trying to cut this, short or anything, but, I don't think we'll figure it out right here. This is the right kind of public forum, I guess, to talk about all those details. Be happy to talk with you, I guess, offline or way, to kind of speak about it. And not, try to figure it out during this audience request meeting. If that's, like I said, not trying to cut you off, cut you short.
I
Yeah.
don't want it to just be rubber stamped. Like, that's the disappointing part for me, is to say that there's not exceptions to these rules. I dealt with this a couple of years ago with the city. We built a huge building at the out at the Sunplex, and there was a backflow preventer issue that after the fact, after we were completely signed off on, we found a septic main that was not in the right place. We luckily did not drive a pipeline through it. So we had to call the city back out to get that fixed. Well, then they later sent me a letter that said, when we were back out there, we noticed you didn't have backflow preventers. And it was gonna cost me $40,000 to put backflow preventers in. Well, that wasn't gonna happen after I had already signed off on all those documents. And So I just kept tracking it down, come to find out the checklist had been updated by the state and just had not trickled down to the city engineer at that time. So like, there's just scenarios that, as long as I'm able to continue this conversation, whether it be with you or someone on the
Yeah,
board or Mr. Wade, I can accept that at this
Yeah.
point. for sure.
Okay, all right.
I just want, my recollection of the meeting 2-3 weeks ago or last month.
I think it was actually February, if I.
Yeah, but my point was, the request was for the variance on which side, don't have all this in front of you, but it was based on the request, the need for an interior door. And I wish I could read in front of me. The need for an interior door required the variance.
So-
Something.
Okay,
And like I said,
I want to
just-
cut this off because
just
we're not
to-
giving
yeah,
fair
yeah,
argument to
that's-
anyone to come and hear the other side of
think-
this, and you were on the agenda.
Yeah, instead of
No,
going back and.
Somebody else
I
was able to
was
speak,
just trying to
that was
clear
allowed.
that was what I
on the
meant.
agenda.
No problem.
Yeah,
So
we
I
can go
don't
back and
think-
watch, that meeting and see what all was talked about during that. But thank you for coming up and talking to us. All right, any further audience requests? All right.
Wade, did you?
I was gonna say, if there's nothing else, then I'm just gonna say, this is my last meeting. I've thoroughly enjoyed working with y'all for the past, well, some of you for the past 8 years that I've been here, others less than that, but I'm not going anywhere, I'll be around, but again, I've enjoyed working with you. I'd wish y'all luck in the rest of the year. Thanks, Steve.
All right.
Great work.
And I'm his replacement, Carter Thompson.
All right, you're the one with
I
the,
forgot to try to introduce Carl.
Yeah.
yeah, I was wondering whose card this was.
Yeah, we
Hi.
got your
Yeah,
card.
it's up there. I'm fine.
Nice to meet you.
All
Where
right.
are you coming from?
Georgia.
Georgia, so you moved down here? Well, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Look forward to getting to know you.
So, finished up audience request, motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, we have a second.
Second later.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.